Welcome to a play-by-play review. I'm your host Henry, and this is just a little late. Yeah, about a month late on the whole draft recap, but better late than never. So I'm gonna do my best to keep this short, since this is a lot. I'm gonna try and go through every team, how they did. Mostly, I'm gonna hit the who they picked in the first round, and then maybe hit some other players on late in the later rounds that I remember being touted and whatnot. And then also at the end, go over the teams that did not pick in the first round, since there were actually a lot this time around that did not wind up having a first round pick, including both the Bills and the Niners, who wound up trading out of the first round during the course of the draft. There was also like Jacksonville, Green Bay, Denver. They all had Atlanta as well. All of them were not picking in the first round, no matter what. Minnesota, no, they were in the first round. It might have just been, I think it was those. Oh, and the Colts as well, Indianapolis. And I think that was all of them. Let me just double check that I'm not missing any. Oh, yeah, and the Bengals, too. That's what it was. The Bengals, they also did not pick until the second round. All right. So we'll jump straight in. Going straight in, no more preamble. To pick number one, draft was over in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and it was the Las Vegas Raiders. The Raiders with the number one overall pick. And to the surprise of basically no one outside of Darren Orlovsky, the Raiders went with Indiana quarterback Fernando Mendoza. Heisman Trophy winning quarterback Fernando Mendoza as well. So the quarterback of the future for Vegas will be joining Kirk Cousins in that quarterback room, with Tom Brady as their, part owner, part manager, maybe. I don't know. Some good minds over there in Vegas to help out Mendoza. So this is, again, not surprising at all that the Raiders go with quarterback and the most highly touted quarterback in the draft. They, interestingly enough, they didn't address wide receiver, which I thought they would. Well, they didn't address wide receiver till the sixth round. That's what I was getting to eventually. But I'm surprised they didn't go wide receiver before the sixth, because receiver is a position kind of need for them at the moment. So I'm a little surprised they didn't go with Elijah Surratt, the Indiana wide receiver who went in the fourth round, I believe, to the Ravens. If I can find the Ravens, he went fourth round to the Ravens, which I think is a really good pick there. I like that one a lot. But anyway, I'm not John Spytek, so I think the Mendoza pick is great. I don't know if he's going to start. I highly doubt he starts week one for the Raiders unless Cousins gets injured during training camp. He might not even start for the entire season. Who knows? They could do what the Chiefs did with Patrick Mahomes and sit him for every game except for week 18. Though obviously Mahomes was a 12th overall pick, I think, compared to the first overall pick. But I don't know. We'll see what happens there. So anyway, moving on to the New York Jets for their first of what would be actually three picks in the first round. They came in with two, then wound up trading back up to pick 30 later on for their third one. But at pick two, they obviously had a ton of options. Maybe probably would have liked to have Mendoza still there, since their quarterback position is not great. Though they might be saving up for next year's quarterback draft, because I know it is supposed to be pretty deep. But they went with Texas Tech edge rusher David Bailey. A lot of people the debate in this pick was a lot between Bailey, Ruben Bain, and Arvell Reese. Jets go with David Bailey, and I'll touch more on their other picks later on. But that was, really anything to help out the defense is good. Since the Jets defense was really bad last year. Obviously the big one of having no interceptions throughout the entire season was, that's the stat that stands out, but it's the whole defense was it was not good. And because they traded away Jermaine Johnson, I think is who it was, pretty recently, get a replacement kind of, although I think Bailey's more of a pure edge rusher than Johnson was, but I could be wrong. It's all kind of like pass rusher, edge player, kind of that general area, essentially. So after that came the Arizona Cardinals at pick 3. And I think a lot of people had Arvell Reese going here had he not been taken by the Jets, and he didn't. So I think a lot of people were expecting the Cardinals to go with Arvell Reese and really just defense as a whole here, given the state of their defense, which was not good. I mean, really the whole team's not good. Instead, the Cardinals actually went with running back Jeremiah Love out of Notre Dame, who I thought was going to go to pick 4 to the Titans. That was like one of my bold predictions, or like one of the predictions I was really riding on, because I was not expecting Jeremiah Love to go here at all. Running backs are, a lot of people nowadays do consider running backs to be a luxury, so to speak. Like you don't necessarily need a strong running game, or even like a number one type of back to go far. I mean, you look at Kansas City, and or even New England. They rarely, either both those teams rarely had like a superstar running back on their teams when they won Super Bowl after Super Bowl. Not saying that's the only formula to do, but that's kind of been the thought a lot. I mean, you look at the Eagles a couple years ago. At this point, Saquon Barkley was like kind of the focal point of their offense. Even Seattle this past year, Kenneth Walker wasn't necessarily the focal point, but he was very much, a huge part of it. He obviously won Super Bowl MVP. But, I mean, Sam Darnold and especially Jackson Smith and Jigba, they were also playing well. But I don't necessarily hate the pick for Arizona. It's just clear that they're not going to be all that competitive. And it's really, they had so many options that they couldn't really go wrong. Like, Love might not have been maybe the most, like, quote-unquote smart choice, in the sense of, like, trying to, get someone like an Arvell Reese, or Caleb Downs if you want to go there, or Sonny Styles as well. Get one of those big name defenders to really beef up the defensive side of the ball that has struggled mightily for a long time, honestly, in Arizona. Like, their defense just has been consistently mediocre at best, for, honestly, I don't even remember when the last time their defense was like legitimately really good. Because I'm pretty sure the Cardinals, like, their leading sacker was Calais Campbell, I want to say. I could be wrong, but I feel like that's what it was. So it was just, I don't know, it was a little bit of a strange pick, but I think, check in with Jeremiah Love. If he might do all right. He might do well in the desert in year 1. It's more the situation around him just is not favorable. But like, I'd check back in like the 2027 season when, in theory, Arizona gets a quarterback, because there's a good chance Arizona's picking number 1 overall. There's a pretty good chance they're picking number 1 overall in the draft in 2027. They go whichever quarterback they desire, whether it be Arch Manning, or whoever else. I think maybe Lenora Sellers. I don't know. I don't pay enough attention to college football, but I don't know. Apparently the 2027 draft is like absolutely loaded, so we'll see. But yeah, check back in 2027 for Jeremiah Love, because he might have a really good second season there. Who knows? He could have a really good first season, but we, again, don't know. It's just the outlook right now is not spectacular, to say the least. So after that brings up the Tennessee Titans at pick 4. They had picked number 1 overall the previous year when with Cam Ward, quarterback out of Miami. And the rookie year for Cam Ward, and really the year for Tennessee as a whole, was obviously not very good, since they were picking 4th overall. But with new coaching staff, and Robert Saleh as the head coach, Brian Daboll as the offense coordinator, which I like both those hires a lot, the Titans would go with Ohio State wide receiver Carnell Tate at pick 4 overall. And I really like this pick. I think it's, getting a big, pretty big body, I want to say. Like, how Tate is, 6'2", 192, so maybe not like the biggest guy in the world, but like a good presence on the field. And, someone who is clearly highly touted as a wide receiver prospect. Obviously, he's also coming out of Ohio State, which just seems to print wide receivers on trees as, over the past 7 or 8 years. You go back even to, 2019 with Terry McLaurin. You got, McLaurin, you got DJ Moore, I'm pretty sure. I think, or did DJ Moore go to Ohio State? He might have gone to Maryland, actually. But like Curtis Samuel, if you want to go back a bit more, but then obviously Jackson Smith and Jigba as well. Garrett Wilson too. And then Jeremiah Smith, who's going to come out in 2027, who's like being even more highly touted than everyone else. And there's like even more that I'm just blanking on at the moment because my brain is not really in football mood at the moment. But Ohio State is very good at producing wide receivers, and I like this a lot. Get someone to help out with Cam Ward in the receiving position because they had some decent receiving options last year. Like Alec Ironmanner showed some flashes. Chimere Dike was all right as like a wide receiver, but really good special teamer. So I think he could make a step in year 2. They did lose Chig Okonkwo, tight end, to the Commanders, former Maryland player there as well. But I think they also re-signed Calvin Ridley as well. So just getting someone with the caliber of Carnell Tate from what everyone's hyping him up to be, I really like that for Cam Ward to have a significantly different offensive look in year 2 compared to year 1. So all right, let me go over the Cardinals and Titans just for other players they picked because neither of them picked after that. So the Cardinals also, they had like their second rounder was Chase Bisontis, Chase Bisontis, guard out of Texas A&M in the second round. They also did actually take a quarterback in Carson Beck in the third round, the Miami quarterback. Then they had Caleb Proctor was, I think, not a bad one, DT out of Southeastern Louisiana. So that was, I know a lot of people are not very high on that Carson Beck pick, that's for sure. But it's another body in the quarterback room. Third round, I don't know if I would go with a third round grade there, I don't know if that was worth it for a third round pick. But yeah, that was something. Where in the world are the Titans on this team list? Atlanta, Baltimore, Buffalo. Yeah, like Titans are supposed to be at the end. Why can I not find them? This is very weird. Teams, because it's like in alphabetical order and then it just stops after New Orleans. I am now incredibly confused. Hang on a minute. What? Wait, why can I not? ESPN, why is your app broken? What? Huh? What? This is so strange. Sorry, I just got completely flabbergasted by this. So it's like you go on ESPN's website to show the NFL draft recap for the DraftCast rounds, best available teams and whatnot. I'm on teams because it shows, you can click which team it is. It's in alphabetical order, though since I have Washington and New England marked favorites there up front. But, it's in alphabetical order for cities. So, Arizona, Atlanta, Baltimore, Buffalo, so on and so forth. It stops at New Orleans for some reason. So I can't get I can't get either of the New York teams. I can't get, obviously I can't get Tennessee. That's really weird. Okay, give me 1 sec. I'm gonna pause the recording so I can find a better website to show me the team recaps. That's very strange. All right, I've apparently just needed to exit out of the website and then just go back in because now I can see them. Now I got New York, the 2 New York teams: Philly, Pittsburgh, Seattle, San Francisco, Tampa Bay, Tennessee, New England as well. That was very weird. Okay. I guess the Titans also did trade back in the first round, so I'll get to them later. Anyway, so where were we? We were on the Titans, so we'll go to the Giants now. And the Giants, with their first of 2 picks in the first round, the pick 5 was the one they always had for having a very bad season, record-wise at least. It also is pretty bad season overall. They also had pick 10 after trading away defensive tackle Dexter Lawrence, their former 2019 first-round pick, to the Cincinnati Bengals in exchange for the 10th overall pick. But we'll get to that one later. For now, though, at pick 5, the Giants went with Arvell Reese, the linebacker out of Ohio State, who's more of an edge rusher linebacker rather than an inside linebacker. He's outside pass rush type of guy, which is definitely the Giants are stacking on a position of strength. They already have Brian Burns, Kayvon Thibodeau, and Abdul Carter in that position. That's all kind of that pass rush outside linebacker area. But I mean, Thibodeau's probably, he's more of a rotational guy. Big disappointment there draft wise. And you can never really have too many pass rushers, but it's still like I'm a little surprised they didn't go Sonny Styles just because of the positional need. But at the same time, I get it because everyone seems to be ranking Arvell Reese as like the top defender and like just one of the top players in the draft this year. So not super like it's not that Arvell Reese is a shocker at all. It's just that an interesting positional wise for the Giants that they like quadruple down on that spot instead of going somewhere else. But anyway, who knows, could work, might not work. We don't know, but not a bad pick. I'm not trying to criticize this too much. It's just like you wonder if going with say Sonny Styles instead, who's in a middle linebacker, is might have been the better play. So pick 6 was initially the Cleveland Browns, though they would actually trade back as the Kansas City Chiefs would jump up from pick 9 to pick 6. And the Chiefs would lock in LSU cornerback Mansoor Delane, which is not surprising that they go cornerback. There's honestly, though, a decent chance Delane probably would have been there at pick 9. I don't think the Commanders would have gone Delane if he was there. I definitely don't think the Saints would have gone Delane if he was there, and I don't think the Giants would have gone Delane at pick 6 either. But who knows? Maybe he did. Or maybe he would have if that was on the case. So the Chiefs making sure they got their guy. And again, it's not surprising at all that the Chiefs go cornerback here since they lost, they traded away Trent McDuffie and then lost, I think it's Jalen Watson, both to the Rams. So their cornerback room is really, really barren at the moment. Though with Delane, it certainly, beefs that up a bunch. And it's interesting seeing like, back-to-back with the Arvell Reese pick and the Mansoor Delane pick, the pro comps on ESPN at least. Arvell Reese's pro comp is Abdul Carter, who was the Giants' first-round pick last year at the same position. And then Mansoor Delane's pro comp is Trent McDuffie, who is the Chiefs' first-round pick a couple years back and the guy they just traded away and are picking Mansoor Delane to replace too. So kind of funny there. But yeah, I like that for the Chiefs because, they get a guy who's like, most people agreed was the best cornerback in the draft. And so, get that and just kind of fix that area before. Okay, there we go. All right. So ESPN's just being weird again. But yeah, I also realized I didn't really go over some of the specific positions the Raiders picked. I just because it reminded me of Jermod McCoy. So Raiders in round 4, just flashback to them. They picked Jermod McCoy, the cornerback out of Tennessee, not Texas, sorry. Tennessee, who was also very highly touted. Like, people were giving him a first-round grade. It's just that he had tore his ACL back in January of 2025. So his injury concerns are like really major, and it's the reason why he dropped to the 4th round. So the Raiders might have gotten a steal there. We'll see, but that was... It just reminded me there that I forgot to do that. For the Chiefs, though, because this was... actually, no, they're not their only first-round pick of the night. This was first of 2, since they also had the pick 29 courtesy of the Rams for that Trent McDuffie trade. So we'll get back to the Chiefs later. For now, though, to, again, try and speed through this because we're only on pick 6. Pick 7 is Washington Commanders. They would go with Sonny Styles, the middle linebacker out of Ohio State. I absolutely loved this pick. Thought it was perfect. Upgrading from very old Bobby Wagner to a very young Sonny Styles at the middle linebacker position is fantastic. I love this pick so much. No notes. They addressed their wide receiver need around 3 with Clemson wide receiver Antonio Williams. They didn't have their 2nd and 4th round picks because of the Larry Tunsil trade. Those went to Houston. But they get edge rusher, running back, center, and backup quarterback with the rest of their picks. Would have liked to have seen maybe a safety get picked or really just defensive back in general get picked by the Commanders, but c'est la vie. I'm still not really complaining too much about the Commanders draft. I liked it. It was good. So pick 8 was the Saints for only pick of the first round. They would go with Arizona State wide receiver Jordan Tyson, who was, some people I think had above Caleb Downs. But I think like his injury, because he had a torn ACL, so he has a lot of injury concerns. But I think a lot of people seem to rate him very highly talent-wise. It's just the injury concerns really scare off a lot of people. But the Saints really needed a wide receiver 2 opposite of Chris Olave. There's the other Ohio State wide receiver that I was blanking on. So getting someone opposite Olave is going to really help out Tyler Shuck as in 2026 for as the quarterback, since Olave's good, but out behind him there was nothing in the Saints wide receiver room consistently. Their best one outside of him was probably like Rashid Shaheed, and even then they traded him halfway through the year. So I like that pick a lot. Makes sense for the Saints that they go wide receiver. Just hopefully Tyson can stay healthy. Otherwise, just checking quickly on what the Saints did. They also picked up defensive tackle Christian Miller in the second. They actually tripled down on wide receiver in this one, because they had Bryce Lance, North Dakota State wide receiver, who's brother of Trey Lance, former first-round pick by the 49ers at quarterback in 2021. They also picked Sonny Styles' brother, Lorenzo Styles Jr. at safety in the 5th. Then they also had LSU wide receiver Barrion Brown in the 6th. So really trying to make up for that whole lack of wide receivers there to beef it up there with 3 wide receivers in one draft for the Saints. Pick 9 was the Browns, their first pick of the night. After trading down, they would go with Spencer Fano, the offensive tackle out of Utah. And I figured they were going to go offensive line. I thought they were going to go offensive line at 6. Makes sense that they still go offensive line at 9. And given that their entire starting offensive line left in free agency pretty much, or were free agents at one point. I think they might have retained one of them, but the Browns really needed to reshape their offensive line. Fano should really help out, because he seems to be pretty highly touted, to say the least. And really just any one of these, big guys pretty much, I think is a good choice there for Cleveland. So the Giants, with their second first-round pick of the night at pick 10 from that Dexter Lawrence trade, would also go offensive line. They would go with Francis Mauigoa out of Miami, who I think a lot of people had as the top offensive lineman. So I was thinking the Browns were going to go with Mauigoa, but instead they went with Fano. But Mauigoa, I think, is probably going to play. I don't know if he's going to play tackle or guard to start out, but not surprising that the Giants go offensive line there, because their offensive line has not been great outside of Andrew Thomas over the past couple of years. So, get a guy who can, block for, protect Jackson Dart and also block for Cam Scatabo. It certainly helps there. Just hope that for the Giants, this set of edge rusher, offensive tackle, top 10 pick duo in the first round goes better than the last one in Kayvon Thibodeau and Evan Neal, which was also under GM Joe Shane, who has just recently been extended. So hopefully for the Giants, that goes better than the last one, because Thibodeau has been very mediocre and Neal has been a major bust. Just an absolutely terrible player. And so after that, just to touch on the Giants real quick, their other picks included, so they went with Tennessee cornerback Colton Hood in the second, Notre Dame wide receiver Malachi Fields in the third, and then a couple others after that. But I like the Malachi Fields pick, just at like wide receiver pick in the third. I don't mind that at all. Same with the cornerback pick in round 2. Positional wise, I like both of those, because they were both kind of positions of need for the Giants. So going into pick 11, it was initially going to be the Miami Dolphins. They would strangely trade down one singular spot, allowing the Cowboys to come up and pick Caleb Downs, which I was really not happy about, since Caleb Downs is very highly touted, the Ohio State safety. I know a lot of Giants fans were also unhappy about passing over Caleb Downs in favor of Mauigoa, though I think they're probably going to like Mauigoa, but unfortunately Caleb Downs has to go to the Cowboys. So a position that they really needed to beef up, they get the best one in the draft. So the Cowboys didn't need to give up much to go get Caleb Downs, and they walk away there pretty happy, I assume. That was not their only first round pick of the night. They would have pick 23. I think they traded. They had pick 20 initially, which was the Packers pick from the Micah Parsons trade. So that was originally a pick 20, and then they traded down to pick 23. But we'll get to that in a minute. For now, though, we go to the Dolphins at pick 12. They went with Alabama offensive lineman Caden Proctor, who's probably going to play guard to start out. Maybe starts a tackle, who knows? But a lot of people are saying he's more of a project than like an immediate like plug and play type of guy. I know a lot of people have not been that high on Caden Proctor. Again, I'm not a scout. I'm not even someone who really pays attention to this stuff. I just kind of regurgitate what I hear from all the various people I listen to. So I don't think this is a horrible pick, but it's not a good one given the process. Since I don't know why Miami passed up on Caleb Downs. I have no idea. And it baffles me. And passing up Caleb Downs for Caden Proctor is certainly a choice. They would have another first round pick later on. They would trade back in the first round, so we'll get to their overall draft later. But that was a confusing one. So pick 13 was originally the Falcons, but this was traded to the Rams for the trade up to get James Pierce Jr. last year. So at pick 13, in the first true shocker of the night, I'd say, the Rams went with Alabama quarterback Ty Simpson, which was certainly a choice. I'll say that. Obviously Matt Stafford is not getting any younger. That's for sure. However, he is coming off an MVP season. So I don't really get this, if I'm being honest. I was saying this during my draft stream when I was streaming it on my YouTube channel. It is Henry the Host. It is all in one word. You can find this podcast there. I like to always promote it during these episodes. Feel free to go subscribe over there so you can keep track of my podcast episodes as well as all the other stuff I do, like streams, which included the first round stream. And I was saying on that stream a lot that the Rams are in win now mode. I was thinking they were going to go with Mekhi Lemon, the wide receiver out of Arizona State. I think it was Arizona State, right? Or might have been Iowa State. Hang on. No, USC. Never mind. Where was I getting Iowa State from? So I was thinking they were going to go with Mekhi Lemon out of USC at wide receiver to, complement Puka Nacua and also Devontae Adams. And since Devontae Adams is not getting any younger, he's in his mid-30s at this point, get someone to really mostly just complement Puka Nacua for the next couple of years. Instead, the Rams go with Ty Simpson, who is the current successor to Matt Stafford whenever he decides to retire. Don't know when. It's just a strange pick, to say the least. So after that, we got a very predictable pick, in my opinion. This was the Ravens going with Penn State guard Olavide Owane. And I think most people could predict that this was going to happen, or at least that the Ravens were going to go with some kind of offensive lineman here, given the interior offensive line struggles for the Ravens last year. This is the Ravens looking at how god-awful Daniel Faalele was. I had to hear so much from my Ravens friends, or my friends who are Ravens fans. And any tape you see of Faalele, it's not surprising. So this is the Daniel Faalele replacement. I think even just the fact that he is on the team now, it is an immediate upgrade from Faalele, who is not on the team. He's now on the New York Giants since he followed John Harbaugh. But yeah, this is, beefing up the interior offensive line, which the Ravens really need. Certain that will help out Derrick Henry as well, and obviously Lamar Jackson. So I love this pick for the Ravens. Very, very simple, very easy. So let me actually go back to the Rams real quick because I forgot about them for their other ones. They went with Ohio State tight end Max Clare in the second. They had an offensive tackle in the third, wide receiver in the sixth, and DT in the seventh. So I like the tight end pick in the second round. I really like that one. since I think the Rams do kind of need a new tight end there. Ravens, meanwhile, they had a lot of picks actually. They picked edge rusher Zion Young out of Missouri in the second. They went back-to-back wide receivers in the third and fourth with Jacoby Lane and Elijah Surratt. And they had also doubled down on tight ends as well with Matthew Hibner in the fourth and Josh Cuevas in the fifth. They also selected a punter in the sixth after I think their Jordan Stout went to the Chargers. So it was an eventful draft for the Ravens, to say the least. So we move on to pick 15, and this is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And this was them taking Miami edge rusher Ruben Bain Jr., who I really thought when he was falling was going to go to Miami at pick 11, and then also at pick 12 when they traded back. I also thought Dallas might have taken him, but they instead went with Caleb Downs. And Bain, I don't think, was happy at falling this far, since I thought there was a decent chance the Jets were going to pick him at pick 2. That did not happen. So, there's the story, quote unquote story. Basically, what happened is that Bain was one of the players in the green room, which is like the little backstage area that set up for the top prospects, so they can walk out on stage when their name's called on night one. And Bain was in there, and he got the call from the Bucs at 15. So the whole thing is that they'll walk up and they'll walk through the tunnel that has all the team logos, and then there's a row of hats, and they'll take the hat that corresponds to the team that they just picked, and there's a little mirror with a camera on it, so they'll try on the hat and flash a smile at the camera and whatnot, just a little extra media stuff. And then they'll go get their jersey and walk out to the stage and hug Roger Goodell and all that. Bain was clearly not happy with falling, and he just powered straight past everything, just grabbed his hat, didn't put it on, didn't pose, was just making a beeline for the podium. All no smiles, all business. He's going to be a monster. His big knock was that he had short arms. That's been the talking point that has been talked ad nauseum about Ruben Bain. But I think Ruben Bain is going to be really good. And I think the Bucs got a bit of a steal there, actually, at pick 15. Just need Todd Bowles to know how to coach correctly, because I'm not a fan of Todd Bowles, to say the least. Otherwise, the Bucs had a pretty good draft. They picked Josiah Trotter, linebacker, in the second round. Son of former NFL player. I think it's Jeremiah Trotter, I think is who it is. They also got Ted Hurst, Georgia State wide receiver, in the third. I think a lot of people were really high on that pick. And some other good ones there as well. I know a lot of people gave pretty high grades to the Bucs for their draft. Okay, so pick 16 was the Jets again. This was from the Sauce Gardner trade, and they would go with Oregon tight end Kenyon Sadiq, which I don't mind this pick too much. I actually had Sadiq going to the Panthers at pick 19. I thought that was going to be a good pick for them, but he goes a couple picks earlier. And the Jets definitely needed tight end help, that's for sure. And Sadiq is the consensus number 1 tight end in 2026. Unfortunately, I think he's actually dealing with a hamstring injury or something like that. That he's been taken out of camp for a bit. It was he had to get surgery on it, and it was known by the Jets when they drafted him, but it's still a little unfortunate. But I still like this pick. Just get a safety blanket for whoever's going to be quarterback in the New York Jets in this year and the next year. Well, right now I think it's Geno Smith, but whoever next year it is, they've got a nice safety blanket there in Kenyon Sadiq. So I don't mind that pick in the slightest. So moving on to pick 17, this was the Detroit Lions. They unsurprisingly went offensive line, given their major offensive line struggles over this past year. They went with Clemson offensive tackle Blake Miller. I don't know too much about him, if I'm being honest, but I like the offensive line pick. I think the Lions, I don't know how their offense is going to do, offensive coordinator wise, because they obviously replaced their former one who they fired after 1 year. But I think the Lions are going to get back into the playoffs this year. I think they just have too much talent, and I like Dan Campbell. So I mean, their division is going to be really tough in the NFC North, but I do like the Lions' current position right now, and beefing up the offensive line in the first round, no complaints there whatsoever. So after that came their fellow NFC North team in the Minnesota Vikings, and they would go with Florida defensive tackle Caleb Banks, who I know had some injury concerns coming into the draft. But, he's a massive dude. I mean, he's 6'6", 327. So big dude, beats up the trenches there, because trench play was something that the Vikings defensively struggled a little bit with. They had Jonathan Allen and Javon Hargrave, I believe, and neither of them played all that well. So getting a lot younger there certainly helps. I know Football Analysis, the YouTuber, Football Garrett, I think his actual name is Garrett, but he's a Vikings fan. He's a guy that I like to watch a lot, and he was not super happy about this pick, because I think I don't think he was the biggest Caleb Banks fan, just because of the injuries, and I think also because someone like Dylan Thieneman was on the board at safety, and I know the Vikings really need safety help, but the upside is certainly there for Caleb Banks and the Vikings. It's just a question of injuries and can he reach it. So we'll see there. Pick 19 for the Panthers. Also let me hang on, because I keep forgetting to do this. The Vikings and Lions outside of the first round. Vikings got Jake Golday, Cincinnati linebacker, in the second. Dominique Orange, Big Citrus, the 6'2", 322 nose tackle out of Iowa State as well. So I don't mind the Vikings draft too much. I would have maybe liked to see them go wide receiver, but they maybe safety as well. Or I guess they went safety in the third round. But yeah, I'm a little surprised they didn't go wide receiver, just because their receiving room is a little thin after Jefferson and Addison. Actually, wait, never mind. They did bring in Juwan Jennings, now I think about it. So I guess there's that. But yeah, I don't mind the draft too much for the Vikings there. The Lions draft, in the meantime, where are the Lions? There they are. They went with edge rusher Derek Moore out of Michigan in the second, which is nice, because they definitely needed some help on edge after losing Al-Quadin Muhammad to free agency, and to just have someone pair up with Aiden Hutchinson on the defensive line, really just opposite of him. They also went linebacker, cornerback, wide receiver, DT, edge for the rest of their picks on day 3. I don't mind it too much. Might not wow people for that draft, but it's still not super. It's not bad, I'd say. I feel like there weren't really that many teams that had a bad draft in this time around. So anyway, pick 19 is the Panthers. They would go with Georgia offensive lineman Monroe Freeling. So not super surprising that they go offensive line, given the state of their offensive line, and really outside of Ikem Ekwonu, their offensive line, and even then Ike's had his ups and downs as an offensive lineman. And I think there's been one other team that's been pretty good, but not complaining about beefing up the trenches, especially with a still pretty young quarterback in Bryce Young. Just trying to help him out as best you can there, pretty much. Like, maybe you could go Mekhi Lemon there, but it's rough going, picking first-round wide receivers in multiple drafts in a row, because it would have been 3 in a row with Xavier Legette, Tedero McMillan, and then Mekhi Lemon, so not super surprising that they didn't go there. Speaking of Mekhi Lemon, he would go next. He was originally scheduled to go to Pittsburgh at 21. They were actually on the phone with him, because they were going to take him at pick 21, as this was going to be Dallas at pick 20. However, Dallas would actually trade back with their division rival Eagles, and the Eagles would leapfrog the Steelers and swipe him mid-phone call from the Steelers, did their cross-state rival in the Eagles. So they're getting basically their A.J. Brown replacement at this point. I mean, Mekhi Lemon and A.J. Brown have very different builds, but, everyone's basically saying that that A.J. Brown is going to be traded at some point soon, probably for that post June 1st deadline, because I think that helps with like cap space and whatnot. And I thought I keep thinking that June 1st, that's so far away. No, that is like tomorrow at this point. So we might see some action coming up here in the next day or two in the NFL, given that it's going to have, post June 1st cuts and all that. So we'll see if the AJ Brown trade happens around then. But, getting another big name, big talent, a big upside wide receiver in alongside of Devontae Smith, and currently, for the moment at least, AJ Brown. We'll see how that goes. Not super surprising for the Eagles there. So they make one of the sexy moves of the draft, trading up to take Mekhi Lemon and embarrassing the Steelers along with it. So the Steelers at pick 21. Actually, hang on. Eagles first, and Panthers as well, because I keep forgetting. Forget every time. I'm sorry. Say Panthers outside of the first round. They also included Lee Hunter, Texas Tech defensive tackle, in the second. They also got Tennessee wide receiver Chris Brazzell the second in the third round. They also got they got Chris Brazzell the second in the third round, and then Will Lee the third in the fourth round. Just to throw all the numbers at you. They also got Sam Hecht, the center out of Kansas State, who I kind of wanted for the Commanders in round 5. But yeah, that was I like their I like the Panthers draft. Would have been interesting to see them go defense a little bit more. I guess they did like a decent enough, maybe a bit more linebacker, pass rusher type, but we'll see. For the Eagles, though, come on, there we go. Okay, so that's really weird. I've kind of figured out why this ESPN thing is being strange, and I'm just not even going to explain it. It's just, I figured it out. It's not broken. It's just designed very weirdly. Say the Eagles, outside of Mekhi Lemon, they got Vanderbilt tight end Eli Stowers in the second. So it's kind of the Dallas Goedert replacement. They also got Miami offensive tackle Markel Bell in the third. So not a bad draft from the Eagles whatsoever. They also brought in some quarterback competition from Jalen Hurts with North Dakota State quarterback Cole Payton in the fifth, just so I can troll Eagles fans there. And it's not actually quarterback competition; it's just backup quarterback stuff there. But I always got to get my ribs in. Anyway, Steelers at 21, they would go with Arizona State offensive tackle Max Ianichor. I think it's Ianichor is how you pronounce it. But that is, Steelers, this kind of the Broderick Jones replacement, because I think I'm pretty sure it's Broderick Jones is who it is. It's one of their former first round picks at offensive line who has a serious neck injury. So he just might not play all that much. And he's also regressed a good bit. So kind of having to replace him there. It's unfortunate, but he kind of, again, beefed up the trenches. Nothing bad with that. But I think Steelers, they obviously wanted Mekhi Lemon. They just had to pivot essentially. So the Steelers, outside of that, they got Jermaine Bernard, Alabama wide receiver, in the second round. I definitely like them going wide receiver there. They also picked, strangely enough, Drew Aller, the Penn State quarterback, in the third round. They definitely needed a quarterback. Don't know if that was the pick. I know Jordan Tree hates that pick. They also got the legendary Jennings Dunker, the Iowa offensive tackle in the third round as well, who had the look of the combine, massive redheaded mullet, throwing hay bales all over the place in his hometown, pure corn-fed type of guy, the guy you want, the type of guy you want in your offensive line, because that is just pure cornbread strength, which is matched by few. They also had one of the best picks, in my opinion, of the night in Eli Heidenreich, the Navy running back, all the way in the 7th round. Heidenreich, also, who's from the Pittsburgh area, was there for the draft and got to walk out on stage in his dress uniform. It was awesome. I'm a big Navy fan, so I'm a big fan of Heidenreich. So that was really cool. I was very happy to see that there. I actually kind of wanted the Commanders to take Heidenreich in the late rounds, but he went to the Steelers instead. He was one of two Navy guys drafted to the NFL. The other one was to the Bengals in Landon Robinson, the defensive tackle, also in the 7th round, a couple picks before. So anyway, after that, we go to the Chargers. Go Chargers, to quote Arnold. They would go with Akeem Mesidor, the very old prospect. I think he's 25. He's 25 because he took a couple extra years because of COVID and injuries and red shirts and all that. So the 25-year-old Akeem Mesidor, edge rusher out of Miami. So the opposite, the Robin to Ruben Baines Batman, so to speak. So he's going to be beefing up that edge rushing group, kind of pair him alongside Khalil Mack, which I think is going to be nice. I know a lot of people we're not too high on Akeem Mesidor due to his age. but I don't mind that too much for the Chargers. I definitely like them going edge rusher there. So they also got center Jake Slaughter in the second round out of Florida, which I was a little surprised given that they had signed Tyler Biotish, who's also a center, but I don't know. Maybe they move one of those two to guard at some point because they definitely needed interior line help. So they also picked a pair of guards in the sixth round. So interesting there for the Chargers. Pick 23 was the Cowboys after trading down. So this was originally the Eagles pick, and the Cowboys would go with UCF edge rusher Malachi Lawrence, which his pro comp is to Jonathan Grenard, who actually got traded on draft day from the Vikings to the Eagles. Might have been on day 2, actually, I think is what it was. But the Cowboys, who desperately needed edge rush help, got some there. They actually went back-to-back edge rushers, getting with Jayshon Barham in the third round since they didn't have a second-round pick, the Michigan edge rusher. They also picked another edge rusher in the fourth round with Alabama's LT Overton. So really hammering home that edge rushing spot did the Cowboys, since their pass rush last year was really bad. So not surprising there whatsoever. After that came Cleveland with their second pick of the night. This was from Jacksonville for the Travis Hunter trade back in the previous year's draft. And the Browns would go with Texas A&M wide receiver Casey Concepcion, which I like a lot, given that the Browns wide receiver core was bad. Their best was I guess Jerry Jeudy, and even then he's not great. Really their best receiver last year was Harold Fana Jr., but he's a tight end. But Browns had a pretty nice draft, not gonna lie. Fano, Casey Concepcion, and then they also doubled down on wide receiver since they went with Denzel Boston early in the second round, which that was a nice pick there. I like that a lot. The Washington wide receiver. A lot of people had him going late in the first round, but he fell to the second. They also got Toledo safety Emmanuel McNeil-Warren as well, who a lot of people had pretty high too. So that was pretty good there for the Browns. They also picked up Justin Jefferson, not the LSU wide receiver Justin Jefferson, the Alabama linebacker Justin Jefferson. They drafted him in the fifth round. So different Justin Jefferson there. We'll see if he's anywhere near as good at his position as the Vikings Justin Jefferson is at wide receiver. So after the Browns, we get to the Chicago Bears, who would go with Oregon safety Dylan Thieneman, which I like, kind of the Kevin Byard replacement in a sense at safety. And I know a lot of Vikings fans did not like this pick because I know a lot of Vikings fans wanted Dylan Thieneman. And so seeing him go to the Bears, I think definitely stung a lot. But I'm sure Bears fans are happy about that. But that was, I like the pick there. Gets a position that was vacated. So they get a good one there in Thieneman. They also picked Iowa center Logan Jones in the second to replace the shocking retirement of Drew Dahlman, who was their previous center, who was really good for them. So the Bears had to fill a position in need there, which they did. They also got Stanford tight end Sam Roche in the third round, who I think is a good blocking tight end. So it's an interesting one there, but kind of getting that sort of smash mouth almost type of football there for the Bears. They also got Xavier Thomas, LSU wide receiver in third as well. So I don't mind the Bears draft too much. Not bad at all. Again, I don't think there are too many bad drafts really in general. The Texans were up after that. Well, it was originally going to the Bills, but as they usually do, they traded down. So they would trade down 2 spots to pick 28, with the Texans jumping up to get Georgia Tech offensive guard. I see OG, which is offensive guard, but for some reason I thought Oregon. But yeah, Georgia Tech offensive guard Keelan Rutledge, which is good pick there, I think, since it randomly developed the hiccups there for some reason. But Texans offensive line obviously has been rough for a while. So getting a big guy there certainly helps. Don't mind that at all. They got Ohio State defensive tackle Cade McDonald in the second round, thanks to the Commanders pick. Both their Commanders picks. The other one was Fabechi Nwaiwu, Oklahoma offensive guard, from the other pick from that Laramie Tunsil trade. So Houston with a couple offensive guards there in the draft. They had defensive tackle, tight end, linebacker, safety, wide receiver, linebacker there. So interesting draft for Houston, to say the least. I don't know. They double dipped on having a Kamari at safety. They picked Kamari Ramsey to pair up with Kamari Lassiter. Because I'm pretty sure Kamari Lassiter is the one on the Texans, right? Hang on. Kamari Lassiter. I'm pretty sure he's... they're listing him as a cornerback, but I feel like he's been a safety. But he's on the Texans, yeah. So they're doubling down on having Kamaris in the secondary, Houston, which is kind of funny. Anyway, after that, it was the Dolphins' second pick, as this was originally going to be San Francisco, but they would trade out of the first round, as the Dolphins would trade up to pick 27 from like pick 33 or 34 or something like that, and pick San Diego State cornerback Chris Johnson, not to be confused with former Titans running back CJ 2K. But this is, I love the Dolphins going for cornerback here because they really needed cornerback help. And the Dolphins, who had a ton of picks, the first one was the Caden Proctor pick was interesting to say the least, but after that is actually not too bad of a draft. They also managed to snag Louisville wide receiver Chris Bell in the third. I know a lot of people were pretty high on him. They got Texas Tech linebacker Jacob Rodriguez in the second. So they addressed a lot of needs. They go tackle, cornerback, linebacker, wide receiver. Caleb Douglas, the Texas Tech wide receiver, there as well. One of the two wide receivers in the third. I also went tight end, wide receiver, edge, linebacker, safety, wide receiver, tight end, guard, edge. So they double dipped on a couple positions, but the Dolphins have so many holes to fill that I think they can afford to do that pretty much. So we get to pick 28. This was the Bills, who then proceeded to trade down again and out of the first round, as they seem to love to do. As this was the Patriots trading up from, or actually, sorry, this was the Bills trading down to pick 31. And this is the Patriots trading up from pick 31 to pick 28 to select Utah offensive tackle Caleb Lomu. And I think this is like pretty obvious why they did this. I mean, we all saw how poorly the Patriots offensive line played in the Super Bowl. I think, the Will Campbell injury certainly didn't help matters, and anything to really assist with the whole offensive line situation for the Patriots would be good. They go with Caleb Lomu, 6'6", 313. He ranked pretty highly there. They also got Illinois edge rusher Gabe Jacas. I think it's Jacas, not Yakas, in the second. So that should be interesting there. I didn't mind their draft too much. I kind of would have liked to have seen them gone with a wide receiver, but they did not go with a wide receiver at all. They did pick tight end Eli Raridan out of Notre Dame in the third, but I was a little surprised they didn't go wide receiver there for the Patriots, like at all in the draft. But I don't know. I mean, I think the Patriots managerial staff knows what they're doing. They also obviously had a lot of other stuff going on with the whole Mike Vrabel stuff. Not to say that that's the reason why they didn't draft a wide receiver, but there's a lot going on for the Patriots, to say the least. So after the Patriots came the Kansas City Chiefs with their second pick of the night. This was courtesy of the Trent McDuffie trade. So they were kind of sitting pat at pick 29 for a little while. And the Chiefs would go with Clemson defensive tackle Peter Woods, 6'2", 298, big dude, to help out Chris Jones in that interior of the defensive line, and maybe also potentially succeed Chris Jones after Jones inevitably retires in the next couple of years, I assume. Obviously he's going to retire at some point. Just don't know how long it's going to be. Probably sooner rather than later. They also went back to the defensive line well, selecting Oklahoma's edge rusher R. Mason Thomas in the second. So beefing up a position that was probably one of their bigger weaknesses for Kansas City, with back-to-back picks in the late first and early second. Not a bad strategy right there. So they're the first four picks, and also including Jason Kennedy, the Oregon safety, in the fourth round. First four picks, all defense for Kansas City. And that's after signing Kenneth Walker in free agency. So Chiefs could have a nice little turnaround here that to back to being one of the top teams in football. That is very much dependent on Pat Mahomes' health, since Mahomes is still recovering from that ACL tear. But we'll see what happens. I don't know. I obviously I'm not the biggest fan of Kansas City just because they win a lot, but I'd rather see Mahomes healthy and play than not healthy because injuries just kind of suck. So anyway, pick 30 was eventually got to the Jets. So I think this was originally the Denver Broncos, which they then traded this pick to the Dolphins for not Jerry Jeudy, for Jalen Waddle, like a week before the draft. It felt like it was pretty close to draft time. So this was originally in the hands of Miami, who then traded it away to the Jets, who jumped up a couple spots back in the first round to select Indiana wide receiver Omar Cooper Jr. A little surprised Miami didn't want to, stand pat and take Omar Cooper Jr. instead. But I think it's, they wanted to just accrue picks because they needed a lot of them. So the Jets get a wide receiver to pair opposite of Garrett Williams, which I like a lot. So this was, I like this pick a lot. I think it's one of the better picks of the draft. Jets had a really nice first round with Bailey, Sadiq, and Cooper. Sadiq and Cooper Jr. It's a really nice selection. They also got Indiana cornerback D'Angelo Pons in the second. They also did go with the quarterback in Clemson quarterback Cade Klubnik in the fourth round, though I don't know how much we'll see of Klubnik in the season. But yeah, the Jets still have another 2 or 3. They might even have 3 first-round picks in 2027. I know they have at least 2 because of the Sauce Gardner trade. I think they actually do have 3 because I think they also have the Quinnen Williams first-round pick from that trade. So I think the Jets also 3 first-round picks this year, 3 currently set up for next year in that very highly touted draft. So the Jets have a lot of ammo to work with going forward. So we'll see what happens because obviously the Jets have been the Jets, but I do like their position at the moment. I just think they need a new head coach and just coaching staff in general because I'm not a fan of Aaron Glenn's coaching style, if I'm being honest. But anyway, that is for a later time. The Bills were up for what would have been the third time at this point because they were originally at pick 26, traded down to pick 28, then traded down to pick 21. And then the Bills, as they usually do, traded down. They traded out of the first round with the Titans coming up and selecting Auburn edge rusher Keldrick Falk, who I know for some reason a lot of people just didn't really want on their team. It was weird. Every mock draft I saw, it was whenever Keldrick Falk got mocked to, it was everyone who was a fan of that team was oh, why do we have to take Keldrick Falk? He sucks. I have no idea why. Seems like he's a pretty good prospect. And I love it for Tennessee to, beef up the defensive line, which they really needed to do. So I love both their first round picks and Carnell Tate and Keldrick Falk. They also got linebacker Anthony Hill Jr. out of Texas in the second round. I like the Titans draft a lot. I think they're going to be, I don't know if necessarily a playoff team for Tennessee, but I think they're going to be significantly improved this year compared to last year, though, again, it's not too hard of a prediction given how poor Tennessee was as a team last year. But I think they could surprise some people with how, actually pretty decent I think they could be. Anyway, the final pick of the first round was the Super Bowl champion Seattle Seahawks, and they, seeing the void at running back after not Kevin Walker, Kenneth Walker left, they would go with Notre Dame running back Jadarian Price, the actual backup to third overall pick Jeremiah Love. So Jadarian Price, who is actually listed as the second best running back, funnily enough, would go to another NFC West team. I have baseball in my mind because Seattle's in the AL, but they're in the NFC. So anyway, it's frustrating that it's like that. But yeah, Jadarian Price goes to the Seahawks, who definitely needed some help at running back after K9 left for the Chiefs. So I know a lot of people don't really like that pick. I don't mind that pick too much. I think it's pretty good. They really needed a running back, so that's not bad there. They also got TCU safety Bud Clark in the second. And they also had cornerback, guard, wide receiver, cornerback, defensive tackle, and cornerback because they really needed cornerback after a lot of them left. They lose Reek Woolen. And really outside of Devin Witherspoon, their secondary depth was a little thin. So it's not surprising that they tripled down on cornerback in this draft and also select a safety. No edge rusher, though, which is a little surprising for the edge rusher or linebacker for the Seahawks there. So we'll see how that goes moving forward. But anyway, in terms of teams that did not pick in the first round, let's go with the 49ers first, just because they're right here. 49ers, their first pick was, actually I think it was pick 33. It was Dejon Stribling, the Ole Miss wide receiver, that a lot of people were not big fans of this pick because I think Stribling was ranked pretty low compared to some others. I know for the Niners and the Jags, a lot of people were saying both those teams reached a lot on their picks. Niners went with wide receiver, edge, running back, DT, OT, cornerback, linebacker, offensive tackle. I just know not a lot of people were super high on their draft. Same with Jacksonville there. But again, I'm not going to be one to really, go in depth there because I don't know those picks too well. So let's see. Elsewise, Jacksonville, their first pick was in round 2. It was tight end Nate Borkature out of Texas A&M, which was, again, an interesting pick. A lot of people were saying it was a reach. And a lot of these guys, I think people were saying were reaches here and there. I think it was CJ Williams, I want to say, was the wide receiver out of Stanford in the 6th round, was ranked so far off the board that he wasn't even on the board. It was really strange. The Jags draft class as a whole really flummoxed a lot of analysts from what I saw. Who knows? It could work because I think this was James Gladstone's second draft. It was the second draft because he was there for the first one, but it was a curious one to say the least. The Colts, in the meantime, their first pick was kind of late in the second round with Georgia linebacker CJ Allen. They also picked up a safety, guard, linebacker, a couple edge rushers, a running back, and a wide receiver for the rest of their draft. But I don't mind them going. Don't really mind them going linebacker there because they definitely needed some help at line. Backer, I should say. It's just Colts. It's their big question is, can Daniel Jones, come back healthy after his Achilles tear? He has been throwing, I think, a little bit in pre-camp or whatever this is called, off-season workouts or whatever it is, mini camps. So we'll see what happens there. Packers, their first pick in the draft was kind of late in the second round, and it was South Carolina cornerback Brandon Cisse. I know a lot of Packers fans were pretty high on that pick. I know Tom Grossi was happy about that one. So yeah, they also went with defensive tackle, edge, center, cornerback, and kicker Trey Smack out of Florida in the 6th round at kicker. I think he went to. Did he go to Severna Park? I think, or he's from Severna Park, so it's kind of near where I've lived before. So kind of local-ish for my, once upon a time, essentially. So I was happy about that. And then otherwise it was the Broncos, didn't have a pick till the 3rd round, actually. They were early in the 3rd round, the second pick actually in the 3rd round. They went with Tyler Onyedem, the Texas A&M defensive tackle. They also got name I like, and Justin Jolly, or it might be Jolie actually. Then NC State tight end in the 5th round. So I know That's It Sports, a Broncos fan I follow on YouTube. Brandon Perna, he was decently happy with the Broncos draft class despite their low draft capital. They went with DT, running back, offensive tackle, tight end, safety, tight end, linebacker. So it's not too bad there. Nothing super flashy though, it felt like. And then I think last but not least, let me double check, but actually, never mind. There's actually 3 teams. The Bengals, Bills, and Falcons have to go. So the Bengals, their first pick was Cassius Howell, the Texas A&M edge rusher, early in the 2nd round. They also got Washington cornerback Takario Davis early in the third. Didn't go linebacker, which I was a little surprised about, but I'm not surprised they go edge rusher there. Bengals, again, not a horrible draft class given their position. I think they could be fun, honestly. There's still, it's obviously the big question is can Joe Burrow stay healthy? Because his health has been a major concern over the past couple of years. He has not been able to play a full season consistently for a while, and the Bengals have really struggled when Burrow is not on the field. So we'll see what happens there. But I like getting an edge rusher. Hopefully their edge rushing core now without Trey Hendrickson can find a way to perform. I'm not quite sure, so I'm not going to be super high on the Bengals moving forward unless something drastic changes before the season. But they could be an interesting team to watch. Second to last is the Bills. So after trading out of the first round, they went with Clemson edge rusher TJ Parker. I know a lot of people are not super happy about how the Bills went around this, as they seem to love trading out of the first round for no real reason. They also got UConn wide receiver Skylar Bell in the fourth. I know a lot of people are accidentally bumped my mic, my bad. So I was trying to just move my hand around. So I wonder how that's going to turn out in the sound. But yeah, Skylar Bell was, I think he was one of the wide receivers that I think people were pretty high on. So he falls there to the fourth. They also got safety Jalen Kilgore in the fifth out of South Carolina. I know a lot of people were very high on him. So I'm surprised he fell that far. But yeah, Skylar Bell, I mean, seems to be pretty good. So that's an interesting one. ESPN says they hit all their needs at least. It's just a little bit of a curious draft strategy there. We'll see how it goes though. Then finally, last but not least, it is the Atlanta Falcons. After they obviously didn't have their first round pick because of the James Pierce Jr. trade. Their first pick was middle of the second round. They would go with Clemson cornerback Avion Terrell, brother of current Atlanta Falcons cornerback AJ Terrell, who they picked in the first round back in 2020. So that I was super happy when I saw that pick. I was actually streaming, I think it was Orioles Red Sox. It was the day after because it was in day 2 of the draft, or night 2 of the draft. So I saw that happen. So that was really cool. So the brothers are going to be roaming the backfield together in AJ and Avion Terrell. They also got Georgia wide receiver Zachariah Branch in the third, so bringing the Bulldog home, or I guess keeping him around in Atlanta, and just Georgia in general. So that's pretty cool there. They also got LSU linebacker Harold Perkins Jr., who I feel like was actually pretty highly touted. It felt like I think he had some injury concerns that really knocked his stock down a lot, but that not too bad there. ESPN also says they hit on all of their needs. So that should do it, I believe, for this episode right here. Again, coming out of the draft, usually every team has at least a little bit of optimism. It's pretty rare, it feels like, when a team just doesn't. I mean, maybe the Rams don't, given their first-round pick. But, it's the offseason. Now is usually a time as any for unchecked optimism. I'm stoked for the season. It's in, at this point, a little over 3 months, because we're basically getting June. So it's June, July, August. Get through those 3 months, get to September, and football season, baby. Or it'll be here sooner rather than later. My 1-year anniversary for this podcast is actually coming up sooner rather than later, which is crazy to say. But again, not for a couple months, but still, it's gonna be here before you know it. I don't have anything special planned for that, but who knows? We'll see what happens. For now, though, next episode will be more baseball. Will be week 10 of baseball season. Orioles just had a crazy walk-off today against the Blue Jays after having a heartbreaker the night before that I had on stream. Today, though, they were down 5-1 and going to the bottom of the ninth with no momentum whatsoever. And they had strikeout, hit by pitch. Then I think it was a triple, a single, 3 straight walks, and then a walk-off single to win it. It was absolutely crazy. I might have missed a hit in there. There might have been an extra single or something, but it was crazy. And it was against Jeff Hoffman too, which is great because I hate that guy. So that was really cool. But yeah, that I'll talk about that on Tuesday. Next Saturday, I might wind up do something. And again, the episode's gonna be posted on Sunday, but it's the Saturday in my mind episode because I start recording on Saturday. I might be doing something anime related with my friend Danica. She was on way back in September for the Nintendo Direct summary we talked about. We might talk about One Piece. I've been texting her, so we're trying to schedule something together. So that look forward to potentially something like that next week. For now, though, that is it. Thank you very much for listening.